everyone, and welcome to this week's Mondays with Madison. I've taken a little time off with finals, but we are now back for the summer and some interviews. This week, I am super excited and honored to have Mr. Ronnie Lott join us. And stay tuned because we've got a great interview coming up. So before we get started, certain people might not know as much about your background. So I want to touch on that a little bit.
Okay.
To the University of Southern California, where you were an All-American and won the national championship in 1978. Were later inducted into the College Hall of Fame with USC, which is awesome. You were a first-round draft pick to the 49ers in 1981, where you won 4 Super Bowls, and then later inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2000 with 10 Pro Bowl selections. I'm still going, almost done. And then last year, when the NFL released its top 100 players of all time, you were ranked number 11. So out of all of these remarkable accomplishments, if you had to pick just one, what moment stands out to you as your proudest moment athletically?
Athletically, my proudest moment would be going back to when I played for the San Bernardino Jets. And the reason that I'm really proud of that moment is that that was my first time I had a chance to put on the helmet.
Yeah.
So you think about, yeah, and you think about those moments and you think about, what fueled all of it is that, you start playing and then when you start playing, you start to understand and you start to realize that there are a lot of things that you want to do in that huddle, and you start to appreciate the people that are in the huddle.
Right.
And for me back then, moving from Washington, D.C. to San Bernardino, it was a way of being able to feel like you belong and, and belong into this community of San Bernardino. And so, yeah, I would say that was probably the proudest moment for me, just learning the fact that, you can play and you could have a helmet. And when I was growing up in Washington, D.C. at that time, we didn't have pads, and we played, in the backyard. We played with our friends, and so, yeah, I think that once you have equipment and once you taste it and once you feel it, it's a really amazing, thought to go back to that moment, because that's where it originated.
And touching on the era that you played in an era where hard hitting was rewarded, whereas now the rules are changing to protecting the players and more emphasize safety. I believe I even heard that you lost part of your finger playing a game and then kept playing. So what is it inside of you that sparks your toughness and made you such a physical player throughout your career?
Well, again, if you go back to that time,
right,
and you mentioned it, that for me, there was this guy named Dick Butkus. And Dick Butkus was the guy that was really a tough player. And then there were guys on the Washington Redskins. I was a big Redskins fan, and Charlie Taylor, 42, was amazing. And they had Larry Brown and a lot of other great football players that were on that team. Chris Hamburger, Sonny Jurgensen, and to me, what I loved about that group is that they were tough and they played tough, and so, having those kind of experiences in your life where you meet somebody or you're around somebody, you start to try to emulate them. I remember one time meeting Jim Brown, and I was at USC, and we went to a party at his house, and I was sitting there going, wow, this is going to be awesome. And next thing I know, this guy that's like bigger than life taps me on the shoulder and says, hey man, you got to get off my grass. And I was like, what is Jim Brown? And so, and right away, one, you size them up, and then two, you're trying to figure out, can you belong? And even though we've been, friends from that moment on, I can tell you now, I wouldn't want to hit Jim Brown. So, but that's the things that happen in your life where you start to meet people, you start to understand who they are, you start to appreciate what they do. And I think we all try to find ways to emulate people and try to find ways to look at, what makes them who they are.
That truly shapes your game for sure.
For sure.
So throughout your career, you've had some incredible teammates, such as Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, and Mark Salin, just to name a few. If you had to pick one teammate who has amazed you, whether it has been their career on the field or just their persona in general as an individual, who would it be?
Wow.
Hard question.
Yeah, that's a hard question when you play with people like you just mentioned. And look, one of the great things about being around great players is that you see something that you're constantly trying to reach.
Right.
And so when you look at Jerry Rice, or you look at Marcus, or you look at Joe, each one of those guys has an attribute that I wanted. And each one of those guys had something that made me better. Just being around them. That's the beauty of it, is sometimes just being around them and seeing what they do and how they act and the way that they practice. And to me, Jerry Rice practiced and worked harder than anyone I was ever around playing the game of football. He was just a guy who decided that practice was going to be like a game. And he exhibited that every day. And what I loved about that is that you think about walking out on the field, you better walk out on the field realizing that he's going to beat you and he's going to come after you. And so you know the intensity of what he was bringing, and that intensity made him the best player in the league. And to me, I don't know if we'll ever see another Jerry Rice. He had that kind of Michael Jordan kind of attitude of, I'm just going to keep after it. I want to be the best ever. And you got to love that, because it makes everyone else better.
Totally. You actually hit on my next question. Adding on that, I was going to say, one thing that I've always thought as an athlete is that when you are around great players in practice and everyday life, it elevates your game and it truly pushes you to be a better version of yourself.
That's right.
Right on that. So that's perfect. As you personally have made the transition from being an athlete to a non-athlete, you have been one of the most successful people in doing so and adapting to life after sport. So what would you give a piece of advice to people like myself who are going to be making that transition soon?
Well, I would say this. Every time you do whatever you do, you're a rookie. And what I mean by that is, imagine the first time that you played and you were a rookie and you were just trying to figure it out, and you kept learning, you kept getting better, you kept working at it. And I think in life, when you have different professions and you're trying to find different ways to get better, I think a lot of times we forget that you have to be a rookie again. You have to go out and realize that you're starting from ground zero. And there's a lot of knowledge that you're going to learn about AI, about all these terrific things that are happening in this world today. And my point to you is that you want to be a great learner, and you want to be a person who is always trying to find a way to figure out how to play with the teammates that you have. It's one of the hardest parts to me is, you play with great teams. Now you got to find ways to play within a new group of people, and you have to find ways to not only play within a new group, but you have to inspire them, and you have to find a way to make sure you got the right teammates. And I can assure you that some of the businesses that I've been involved with, I found myself not having the right teammates, not having the right characteristics. And then what I've done is I've learned that you got to bring in a consultant. You got to bring in people who are like, head coaches that can, oversee and look over what you're doing. They have the experience. So you got to remember that, and I believe this, is that if you really want to do well in life, is that you're constantly finding people that can help you see your blind spots.
Mm-hmm.
And on the field, you know, I had Ray Rhodes, and I had George Seifert, and I had Bob Toledo, and I had
Mm-hmm.
some really amazing coaches that coached me. Bob coached me at USC. I had Ray Rhodes and George Seifert at the 49ers. Pete Carroll I had with the Jets. And you know, Al Davis was not the coach, but he was there when I was with the Raiders. You had Art Shell that was the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Art was amazing. And you have to learn from how they conduct themselves, what they think about, what they want you to do, what they want you to be. I mean, sometimes you think that you can do certain things and you can't. And so learning how not to do things is so important.
Yeah.
Right. And so and that's what you learn in business, and that's what you learn in life, and that's what you learn to deal with people in your huddle. And people in your huddle hopefully are inspiring you. And they're you know, a good friend of mine, Eric Scoggins, would always say this: you got to stand for something. You got to stand for something, and you, because if you don't, you're going to fall for anything. So you got to understand what those dynamics are all about.
Great advice. So now, touching on the current state of college football and the NFL, what are your thoughts as now an observer of the game?
Well, first of all, both the college game and the pro game is amazing. And the reason that it's amazing is that you'll see a college player do something that you go, oh, I could never do that. and you're
fully evolved, huh?
And you're you know, overwhelmed by the fact that that player or that person was able to do that, and he's really young and he's very talented. And so that's what I love about watching the college game, is that you're constantly seeing young people that are exploring and getting better and finding ways to do certain things. This kid Mahomes, when he was in college, and now here he is in the pro game doing some amazing things, doing things like Magic would do on the basketball court. He's throwing the ball, looking another way. And so we haven't seen that. And that's kind of amazing that, you know, you're starting to see basketball things happen on the football field. So that's amazing. And then in pro football, to me, speed and size and physicality is still there. Yes, they have found a way to really take away some of the things that could hurt guys, and take away some of the things that could put people in situations that could be that maybe might jeopardize their health. And so I'm glad they're moving in that direction. I think it's important that they move in that direction for a lot of reasons. But the main reason that I love the pro game is that I love when I see somebody like a Tom Brady do what he did last year. And the reason I love it is that it's the unpredictable of life. And the unpredictable was watching him go out with a whole new group of guys. Imagine walking in the room and you got a whole group of guys that are new employees. And now you're going to get those new employees to kind of, you know, buy into you and you buying into them. And that's that essence of what he brought to the table and what we saw. That's just as important as him doing what he did on the field. I mean, being able to figure out how to get along and fit is just as important. And that's one of the things that when I saw Joe Montana go to Kansas City, he went there and he fit and he found a way to fit. And my point is, great leaders try to find a way to fit into organizations, and they try to find a way to enhance the organization by fitting in.
Yeah, it's about the chemistry and the behind the scenes stuff.
That is so true. So true.
Now we will jump into our person behind the athlete segment, where we will learn more about you outside of football. So you are a man of strong faith. So why don't you touch on that a little bit?
Well, that part of my life is centered around how my mom and dad raised me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the great things that you find is your compass in life early on. And I'm very fortunate that my mom and dad uh, taught me early on about what's right and what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They taught me about the beliefs that we need to have. And one of the things that I think is great about life sometimes is um, how you exercise that in tough situations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you have to be able to have your beliefs in your savior or your God or your person. And what I think is really amazing is that when I think about all the things that all the good things and all the bad things, all the failures that God has said, hey, look, I'm going to teach you a lot of lessons about a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to teach you all about the good, and I'm going to teach you about all the bad. And I've seen a lot of it on both sides. And what I love about that is that he's allowed me to be an instrument to hopefully help others see that, you know what, you can be a defensive back
Mm-hmm.
and you could have a great career and you can prosper, but more importantly, that you can find a way to lift people up and you can find a way to figure out how you can help others in this world, because ultimately he's asking you every day to
Mm-hmm.
serve in some capacity, and you don't even know it, but he's asking you. And today is a perfect example of when you said, hey, will you do it? Yeah, of course, let's, because I'm just as strong as you and you're just as strong as me, and by us doing this together, we're helping hopefully some kids out there and people out there see that, yeah, we can do this, we can help people.
Mm-hmm. Ultimately, it's bigger than sports, right?
Always, always, always.
So now touching on your family, why don't you talk a little bit about them as well?
Well, that's a great question, because
Mm-hmm.
when I think about my family, right away I think about my mom and dad. I think about who they are, what they stand for, and all the things that they gave us.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by what they were able to give us is really centered around this thought of what are you playing for, and why do you have a purpose, and why do you understand that purpose is valuable. And all I can tell you is my dad was in the service, and I remember one day he goes, hey, you need to polish my shoes again, they're not shiny enough. And I remember sitting there and thinking to myself, whoa, I gotta they're not shiny enough. And my point is, sometimes you have to have an imagination to know that you can get even better. And so I went back to polishing the shoes, and I went back to make sure that they're better. So, but that's all about the framework of how my mom and dad lived. I have a younger brother and sister
Mm-hmm.
who are phenomenal, and now I have my family, my
Yeah.
immediate family, and my wife Karen, and I have an older son Ryan, who is a wonderful young man, and then I have Haley, and Isaiah, and Chloe. And what I love about them is that they've taught me more.
Mm-hmm.
They've asked me, and they've taught me more. Now, it's been very interesting because, as we all know, you want to try to emulate your dad, but that doesn't necessarily work for my kids. And
Mm-hmm.
so I find myself realizing that there are things that I have to be able to surrender. There are things that I have to be able to understand that of what they want in their life and where they're going with their life. And I need to be there to support them. And then the best part about all of this is I have an incredible wife, and Karen is incredible because she cares about everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
she's just really blessed, nice person who loves people and loves trying to make this world better. And
Mhm.
so that part is really amazing, because what I find in her is an incredible compass of something that I need to kind of emulate and model and think
Mhm.
about. So I'm very fortunate that you know, when I think of people and I think of the things that are in your life, you want people that are also challenging you and helping you think about that there's more, and that maybe there are things that you could do to be better, and so that's what I love
Mhm.
about my family. I got a I got a grandkid, Elijah, that is in, who can run all day long. But it's just been great watching everyone, understand their purpose,
Mhm.
understand their faith, and understand their responsibilities in society.
Mhm. Seems like you have a very incredible circle around you.
So far, so good. It's been unbelievable, but I think you surround yourself with people like that, and I think you surround yourself with your friends. And look, it goes back to the guys that when I was at USC. I can name off guys that are still in my life. I can name off the fact that I have guys like Marcus that's still in my life, and I can name off Dennis Smith
Yeah.
that's still in my life. I can name off Raymond Butler. I can name off Tim Lavender. I mean, there are a number of teammates that I still are interacting with, but it's more about interacting with them around your life and
Mhm.
around how we can all figure out how to get better. When I talk to Coach Robinson, it's great, and so you have coaches and people that are inspiring you. And
Mhm.
Coach Don Lindsay, who used to be our linebacker coach, I talk with him occasionally, and every time I talk to him, it's always around our faith, and it's always around him sharing with me about something that he believes and something that he wants me to see. And
Mhm.
so and guys, Ricky Ellison, who played with me, and Ricky is probably one of the few people that I played, I played college with him. The only time I didn't play with them was with the Jets, but I played
Mhm.
with them with the 49ers. I played with them with the Raiders.
Mhm.
And so, and now watching him, do what he's doing now with the missile defense group, and seeing how he is being able to build his team and build his community, and not only build his team and his community, but taking on an incredible effort of trying to make sure that we're safe. And so you see guys, playing bigger than themselves, and you see it all the time. And so I'm very fortunate.
Yes, and the relationships go beyond the 4 years of college and however many odd years in the pro league. So that's incredible. And last thing I want to touch on is the Lott IMPACT Trophy is named after you, which not only celebrates college players for their athletic performance, but also focuses on their academics and their community service efforts. So, what does this sort of award mean to you and having it be named after you?
Well, first of all, um, when I think of Mike Salmon and John Hamilton and what they were able to do and how they handled themselves and what they were trying to accomplish, I, here are two guys that didn't have to think about anything other than what they needed to think about, but they decided that they thought that maybe we could create an environment where people will look at how we conduct ourselves and how we deal with each other.
Mhm.
And so uh, that award has had some incredible people. I mean, just
Truly.
phenomenal people that are amazing, athletes. And what I think is really interesting to me, every year I'm learning from one of those guys about not only how they play, but how they conduct themselves and what they've done off the field. And it tells you that that their parents and their schools and their relationships, they've been able to figure out how to model themselves to be more than just a football player. So the Lott Award is really centered around making sure that not only are you a great football player, but a human being that is also interested in trying to lift people up. And the young kid that won it this past year out of Northwestern, he's going to be playing in the NFL, and he is a phenomenal football player. And so for me, when you see not only is he a phenomenal football player, but you also know he's a phenomenal person.
Right.
And that's the kind of stuff that you're looking at. And what I mean by looking at is that I watch a lot of football, but I watch a lot of people.
Yes.
And the reason I watch a lot of people is that I love when I watch a guy who is celebrating the game and celebrating his teammates and celebrating the relationship that he has with his teammates, because a lot of times that's, for some people, that's all they have. That's all they have. And so I know that it's important that when you're in a huddle and you're gaining respect or trying to get their respect, is very valuable.
It makes it that much better rooting for the person, knowing that they're a solid individual as a whole.
Yes, and not only that, but I think the reason that we all look, we're always rooting for the good guy. You know, we're always rooting for the guy who is, you know, that plays that role, who's a person of character, a person who is trying to, you know, do all he can do. And so, yeah, I believe that we look for those type of moments, and there are a lot of people out there that exhibit those type of characteristics.
Yeah, what an incredible award.
It really, to me, I'm proud of it because of the young men that have won it, and the young men that are a part of it. And there are so many guys that I've met that when I look back at my life, I'm thankful that I had a chance to meet them. And what I mean by that is I'm thankful that I had a chance to rub shoulders with them, because you get to see something that maybe can help you be better, which a lot of times is true.
Yeah, learning from everyone, of course. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Lott, for joining me. I seriously had a great time interviewing you and getting to know more in depth about your football and who you are off of the football field as well. So with that being said, please like this video, comment down below, and I will see you all for the next Mondays with Madison. So with that being said, see you later, sports fans.
See you later, sports fans.
So it's gonna go like, see you later, sports fans, and it's
Okay.
just a little salute.
Okay, we got it. I got that.
So